everybody, it's Kira and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my June wrap up for you guys and my June haul. I forgot I'm still doing that all in one video today because I don't have too many books to haul. So it was a pretty good reading month, pretty decent reading month. So we'll just get into it. All of these books that I bought, except for one of them, I got at a used book sale or at a thrift sale. So, a thrift store. My library did have a used book sale, but I didn't end up finding anything there. So the first thing that I got was the new cover of Torch in the paperback edition. I accidentally left my copy at my parents' house, so I don't have it here, but I did buy that at Mall of America, the Barnes & Noble in Mall of America, because I was up there for a wedding, which was super fun. But yeah, so now I have that, which is the, I don't own that copy of Torch at all. So now I have the paperback edition. And then the rest of these ones are all from Goodwill kind of stores. So I have Torn by Margaret Peterson Haddix, which is book 4 in the Missing series, and was the only one I'm pretty sure that I didn't own from the Missing series, which are literally straight back behind me. Because I'm pretty sure there's 8 books in the series. I don't actually know. This is one of the few series that I now own the whole series to that I have not read the whole series. I read the first couple books years and years ago and then just never ended up reading all of them. I said that really weird. Whatever. So now I have book 4, so now I have the whole thing, and I think I'm going to start that soon-ish. I was kind of feeling it. So now I have it. Then we have Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. This is an Anastasia retelling, but sci-fi. And also it has purple stained edges, which I think is so pretty. So I'm very excited. I read the Geekerella series by Ashley Poston and really enjoyed that, but I haven't read anything else by her, so I'm very excited about it. Then we have Gay Girl, Good God by Jackie Hill Perry. I listened to the audiobook for this last month, well, the month before, so May, and was going to buy my own copy, and then I found it at Goodwill, and I was like, perfect. So now I have a copy of this book. Very, very good book. And then last up in the haul section, we have Sea Fire by Natalie C. Parker. I really don't know anything about this except it's like pirates, and like women pirates. And the cover's really cool. So I remember hearing about it when it first came out a couple years ago, but don't know anything else about it. So yeah, those are the books that I bought in the last month. And then I do have one book that I DNF'd because I just could not do it. And that is The Kinder Poison by Natalie May. So this is actually my friend's copy. I was borrowing my friend's book, and the reason why we wanted to read this series is because I saw a thing on Instagram for the second book that came out, I think earlier this year, but it was like coming out when I saw it. And I was like, that sounds so good. But it was the second book, so I was like, obviously we have to read the first book. And it just like was not that great. It was very felt very juvenile. The main character is named Zaru, I think is how I pronounced it in my head. And she was just very naive and dumb and annoying. And I felt really bad, but I didn't care what was going on in the book at all. So basically the main setup is that Zaru is from an outside village, and she sneaks her way in to try and get to see the palace, to see this big celebration that happens. And you find out that in this big celebration, there's going to be this big race between, there's 2 princes and then a princess. And there's this huge race. And at the end of the race, they have to offer a sacrifice. And I don't even remember, I think whoever wins gets to become the next ruler or whatever. But Zaru sneaks onto this boat to go there, and then ends up, through lots of happenstance, ends up being chosen as the sacrifice. So the person who's going to get sacrificed at the end of this race. So she's forced to go on this race across the desert. She starts off with the princess, but I ended about halfway through when she got rescued by the prince. I don't know, the characters were just not interesting. She was not very smart, at all. And because she even says at one point, her best friend is the one who makes the plans, and so when she tries to make a plan, she's like, escape, figure out the rest of the plan later. Like, that was her plan. And I'm like, I just don't care enough, and I'm not invested enough even halfway through to continue reading. So I gave it up. The writing wasn't that great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't very good either. And yeah, I was like, there's too many other books that I want to read that I'm not going to spend my time reading the rest of this. So now I'll get to the books that I actually did read in the last month. And we start with A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Obviously, this is book 3 in the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, or series, I guess, really. I loved the beginning part where Feyre was playing the spy. I was so excited for that part because of the way that book 2 ends. And I knew she was going to play the spy in book 3. Really, really, really loved that stuff. This book took me a long time to read, partially because I don't know if this is true of all copies of this book. But this book is 700 pages. I think it's like 700 pages exactly. It is physically smaller than book 2, which is only 624 pages, because they literally made the pages thinner so they could fit more in them. If you are ever curious about it, I don't know if it's in other editions or not. Like, they did the new covers in the paperbacks. I don't know if that's true of those as well. But I know at least in the hardbacks, I was comparing them, and it's literally thinner pages so they could fit more of them. So this book is smaller. Like, okay. So I also read Addie LaRue, which was a really good book. And this one is only 444 pages, and like, what is it? A Court of Wings and Ruin looks to be about the same size, but it is 300 pages more. So it took me a very long time to read. I got stuck kind of in the middle because it was just so much like planning leading up to the final battle, and I was just like, okay, let's get there. Like, I know this planning and stuff is really important because we have to get all of the courts to agree to stuff, and nobody wants to agree to stuff, but so I know it was important, but I was just like, okay, like, let's get to the final battle. I really enjoyed Nesta and Elaine's stories too, and I'm really excited to see more of Nesta. I know Nesta for sure is in the sequel series, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, it was just really good. Overall, like, a good conclusion to the trilogy. I don't know for sure if it's one that I would reread, but I really just enjoyed having the final bit of the story for these characters. After that, I read kind of a disappointing book, and that is Khan Academy by Joe Schreiber? I don't know. This was just kind of disappointing. It's only like 200 some odd pages, so it was really short. And it's about this boy named Will who cons his way into this really prestigious school, and when he's there, he ends up meeting another girl who also conned her way into the school named Andrea, and so they start a bet of whoever can get this like really awful mean person, this like bully guy, to give them $10,000. That person is the winner, and they can stay at the school, and the other person is supposed to leave. So, like, there's a lot of, like, you know, con planning, like, that kind of thing, which I really love. But it just felt rushed, and I didn't really care about Will. And Andrea was just kind of and, like, I don't know. It was just, like, a lackluster book for me. Like, I think I was expecting more out of it because I love, like, con artist stuff, and I love, like, the Ocean's movies. Or like, which one is it? Their Fractured Light, which has a con artist and a hacker. I love, like, that was really well done. I don't know, I think I was just expecting more from this book and was just disappointed. It felt a little too juvenile for me to, like, fully enjoy. I probably would have liked it a lot better if I'd read it a few years ago, but because my reading tastes have, like, evolved, and I don't want to say gotten more sophisticated because that makes me sound awful, but, like, I'm more picky about stuff like that. I don't know. It was just, like, okay. Then after that, I read A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This was a nice little in-between book. Felt a little bit like fan fiction in a good way, of just, like, them at a party and, like, having this celebration, and I don't know, I think it's a good in-between book for between the two series, although I haven't read the next one yet. But I definitely could see how people would be disappointed if you were just waiting for the next book in the series and then you get this and you're like, this isn't quite what I wanted. But knowing that I did, that this was kind of like the in-between, just kind of like a fun little novella kind of thing thrown in here. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it set some stuff up for the second series that I'm very excited to get to. After that, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So good. So incredibly good. As my friend said, I can see why people might not like this book because there's definitely like a weird part in here. But I found it so fascinating. So, if you don't know, this is about a girl named Addie LaRue who grows up in the 1700s in France. And she's supposed to get married to this guy, but she's 23. She's supposed to get married. Her parents are like forcing her to marry this guy. And she's like, I just do not want to be stuck here. Like, I want more from life. I want to explore. I want like bigger things. I don't want the like dull everyday life of marriage. So she has like an older friend who always tells her like, don't pray to the gods of the dark. Like, don't ask for help from the dark. But on her wedding day, Addie doesn't realize that it's just turned into night. And so she prays, she's like, help, just somebody, anybody help. And so the darkness answers. And he's like, what will you give me for your soul? Or what will you give me? And she basically says like, I'll give you my soul. So she sells her soul, and the price of that is that no one remembers her after she walks away from them. So if they're having a conversation, they can remember her, but then as soon as she leaves or they leave, within like 2 minutes, she's just completely gone. She can leave no trace behind. So she ends up living this like invisible life through the years. She also can't die until she like gives into the darkness for real. And so it's just her like living her life throughout these hundreds of years and not being able to like leave any trace of her until we get to 2014, and there's a guy named Henry who remembers her. She goes to his bookstore, steals a book, and then comes back the next day and he says, I remember you. And you're like, what? How? So it's a very like character-driven book. So if you love a lot of action, which normally I do too, but it's a very character-driven book, so there's not a lot that like actually physically happens in the book, but it just talks a lot about like memory and how you influence both like the world and the people around you, and like inspiration and ideas and what makes a person, and it was just so good. It was beautifully written, a really cool like character study on humanity as a whole, and because Addie, you know, has lived hundreds of years, so she sees a lot of things. And yeah, it was really, really well done, and I think this is one of my favorite books of the year already. Like, it's really good. And then lastly, I read the last book in the Giver Quartet, which is called Sun by Lewis Lowry. So this book, maybe I should have read them all in a row, because when this book started, I was like, I don't really remember anything that happened in book 2 or 3. Like, and to be honest, I think The Giver and Sun are the two strongest out of the 4 books in the Giver Quartet. But it was very strange to be back in like a very solidly dystopian book, because it's been a little while since I've read a dystopia. But it was like very quickly just like dystopia in your face, and you're like, whoa. We follow our main character Claire as she is a birth mother and gives birth to this child, and then something goes wrong, and so she ends up transferred to another job, but she still has these feelings of like wanting to see her son, and so it's her trying to figure out like what's going on with that. I like that it tied into the first, like into all of them really, but especially the first book, which again I remember the best. But there were references to the other 2 books in the middle there too, and it was a good, like, fun way to, like, tie everything together. I feel like, again, maybe if I read them all in a row, it would have made a little bit more sense, and I think it would have been even more satisfying with like the ending to the whole series as a whole. I think the book itself ended fine, but I mean, I wasn't like super invested in like the world, so it did kind of feel like this isn't like, it's not like the Hunger Games where like we have the beginning, like the end of the old way of things and the beginning of the new way of things necessarily, because of the way that it's just like different communities. So I don't know. It was fine. These are definitely not like my favorite books of all time, but I mean, this edition is amazing, and they are like very good dystopian books, and like classic dystopian books too. So I'm glad that I can say now that I have finally finished all 4 of the Giver books. So that was a lot, but that was it. That's it for my June wrap up. If you guys have read any of the books that I mentioned, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and be able to talk with you about them. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to follow me on social media, all my links will be in the description as always. Again, my Bookstagram is coming back, so I've been posting more on that recently. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!